Hello everyone, welcome to Pack-A Tuesday. I'm Tasha with Butterfield Alpaca Ranch and welcome to my fiber studio. This is the first video in a series all about processing alpaca fiber. Today we're going to focus on skirting and sorting. Getting the most out of your alpaca fleece happens on shearing day. You need to separate the first, second, and third cuts of your alpaca. So here's a picture of an alpaca in which the parts of it have been numbered for us to talk about. Number 1 is going to be the blanket of the alpaca, and that is the best of the best that the alpaca grows. That is the part that we're going to talk about today with skirting and sorting. So that's what gets gone through the most, and that's what you want to get off first when you shear your animal. And you want to separate this from every other part of the body so that you have the best separated from the whole thing. And then the second cuts, now some of these numbers don't really follow what I'm talking about. I'm just doing first, second, and third cuts. So number 1, of course, is the first. Now we have the neck, the chest, and the belly are second cuts. They go in a separate bag, meaning yes, they're good, but they're not as good as the blanket, and they can still be made for great things. And then the rest of the animal gets put into a third bag. Your first, second, and thirds all have a purpose, and today we're going to focus on your first, the primary, which is the blanket. First of all, you're going to start off with some type of skirting table. You can buy one or you can make one yourself. This one I have here is a homemade version. What we have here is a cattle panel that's been covered in chicken wire, and then the edges have the foam pipe insulation to keep yourself from getting all scratched up. And it's resting on 2 sawhorses that the height can be adjusted. These can also be easily stored. The top is not attached to the sawhorses, it's just resting on top, so this can be hidden somewhere, it can hang on the wall, anything like that, and the sawhorses fold up, and they can also be stored in a small amount of space. So when you're not using it, this can be put up out of the way. Now the table, the things that you're going to be doing with this, the cattle panel gives this structure, so you're going to want that so it doesn't all fall apart and it's not too flimsy. But the chicken wire, it holds the fleece up, yet there's holes in it that allow vegetable matter and dirt, short pieces of fiber to fall to the floor. And in this case with the chicken wire, you can actually shake it to kind of help that process move along. Some skirting tables that you can buy are round, that you can spin, which I think would be really helpful too, because then you're not having to move around the table. You move the parts of the fleece towards you as you spin that table around. But like I said, you can purchase one or you can make one. So let's talk about skirting. On shearing day, you want to separate your blanket from the rest of the animal. And it's best to do what's called noodling it, so that the way in which the fiber comes off the animal, it remains intact that way. So when you get it on the table, you know how it was laying on the animal, and you know best how to skirt it. This is just part of the blanket, it's like half of it. I have another half in a separate bag. So as I'm looking at this, what I can see is the cut part is facing up, and what I want to do is actually flip that over so the cut part is facing down on the table. And I want to keep the fleece as intact as possible. So skirting, what that means is you're going to take off the parts that don't really fit with the blanket. It might have been right on the edge where the belly started, or the neck started, or where the tail was. It's best that when you noodle it, you actually mark your bag in some way, or maybe put a paper on one end or the other so you know what part of the animal was touching, say, this end of your fleece. So then you're going to go around on the outside of your fiber and look for things that don't really fit with the blanket. You also want to take out any parts that are going to compromise the quality of the blanket. So if there's any burrs or vegetable matter, you can go ahead and pick those out. If there's felted parts, you can remove those. And then you just want to start cleaning up the fleece. So I see there's a lot of vegetable matter in here. You could take the time to pick all that out. You want to shake your table or shake the fleece to get all dirt and whatever loose bits there might be to fall down below. Now, some of the vegetable matter is going to come out in other parts of your process, so it's up to you how much you actually do at this point. But you'll notice any obvious parts of the fleece that should be removed. Now let's talk about sorting your fleece. There's 4 criteria that you're going to go through to determine the groupings for your fiber. It's going to be color, hairiness, staple length, and grade. So with color, it's best when you're shearing to go from lightest to darkest. And then when you're processing your fleece, you also go in color groupings, so you can get light colors together for whatever the next step is beyond sorting. Here I'm going to show you the 16 recognized colors for alpacas in the United States. There's white, beige or cream, fawn, which comes in light, medium, and dark, brown, also comes in light, medium, and dark, bay black, which is almost like a brown black, and then there's true black. Then we have silver gray, which can be light, medium, and dark, and also rose gray, which is light, medium, and dark. So those are the 16 categories for color. Now you're going to go through each fleece and look for staple length, hairiness, and grade. You can make yourself a tool, something like this, for this next part. It's hard to see, but on this side there's a marking for inches. Because first you're going to look at staple length. First there's woolen, which is 1.5 inches to 3.75 inches. Then worsted is 3.75 inches up to 6 inches. Anything less than 1.5 inches is going to go into your thirds pile. And if it's over 6 inches, no mill is going to be able to process it for you. So keep that in mind when you're determining when to shear. You don't want it to get over 6 inches. The other colors here on my tool help me to figure out the grade and the hairiness of fiber. For grades, there's 1 through 6, 1 being the finest and 6 being the coarsest. Grade is based on micron. Micron is 1/100th of an inch. So if you were wondering why I had a microscope in my fiber studio from the last video, this is why. I get to look at one piece of fiber under the microscope and kind of get a guesstimate of what the whole fleece is like, or at least the portion where I took that fiber from. 1 is going to be your finest fleece, so the softest next to your skin. A label might say baby alpaca or royal alpaca, but it's like the softest of the soft that alpaca can grow. Grades 2 and 3 are best for yarn intended for clothing. Grade 4 is best for socks, and then grades 5 and 6, being the coarser ones, are best for things not next to the skin. So they're great for rug yarn or felting projects. Okay, I hope the camera picks this up, but I'm going to show you 2 examples of graded fiber. So in this bag, this is going to be grade 1, and grade 1 being the finest that we have. When you hold it up and you break it apart, let me show you here. You pull it apart and it has a webbiness to it. You see that? So you would go through the fleece and you'd pull it apart and you'd inspect it like this. Oh, there's a piece of VM in there. What you're looking for is the micron, as best that you've trained your eye to see. This being a grade 1 is very webby. And you're also looking for hairiness. Hairiness has to do with primary and secondary fibers. So the alpaca grows a primary fiber by itself, and then secondary fibers is a cluster of all the fibers growing around it near that same follicle. So if the primary fiber is longer or coarser than the primary fibers growing around it, we consider that hairy. If you were to look at alpaca yarn where you have fibers kind of sticking out, that was a hairy fleece. So the more cheaply made yarn that has not been processed to this extent, then you're going to end up with yarn that has these little things sticking out. And you may like that for something, but you also may not, because that might give you a bit of a prickly factor. Those primaries, if they're coarser than the secondaries, are going to give you a prickly factor in your yarn. This is a grade 6 fleece, and I'm not sure if you can tell, but this is much coarser than grade 1. There is not a webby factor to it. You can see the darkness behind there. It might be easier to see. Now there are people who train. They're certified to be able to tell all this stuff. But if you are sorting your own fleeces, it's best to know this for yourself. So there you have it. That's sorting based on your staple length, color, hairiness, and micron, which is the grade. And you would sort all of those into separate piles based on all that criteria, and you'd lump like things together, and then depending on what it is, you would then send it off to whatever it's going to become, whether it's yarn or rugs or felting projects or whatever. But you'll be able to make an educated decision on what is best to be used with that fleece. And then it also tells you who to be breeding your alpacas to if that's part of your business plan of breeding. You want to know who to breed them to get certain results. The next video is going to be tumbling and washing. So those are the next steps that you take with this fleece after you've sorted and skirted. Washing alpaca fiber is very specific and it's different from other types of fleece. So you'll certainly want to be on the lookout for that. I'm also working on a resource for you detailing all of these steps and the details related to alpaca. If you want to be the first to receive it, get on my mailing list. That link is down in the description box. I will send it directly to you when it's ready. And you'll also want to like our Facebook page, Butterfield Alpaca Ranch. That will keep you up to date on all the latest things that are going on. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and remember to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you on the next video.